All right, it is 3 p.m. I will get us started today. Hello, everyone, again. Welcome to the Crash Responders Safety Week All States Planning Call Governor's Proclamation webinar. My name is Luana Brashears, and I'll help facilitate today's webinar. The Crash Responders Safety Week initiative is brought to you by the Federal Highway Administration Office of Operations Traffic Incident Management Program, and it recognizes all traffic incident management response communities. The June All States Planning Call will focus on Governor's Proclamation. Now, just as a quick reminder, at NOCO, we offer a variety of resources to support the transportation systems management and operations community. You can go to NOCO's website, which is transportationops.org, to browse through links for TISMO resources and also news. Previous webinar recordings and case studies can be accessed from there as well. Now I'll cover a few logistics for today's webinar. Make sure you pay attention. Today we have a few things that are a little different than typical NOCO webinars. So the first thing is we're recording this webinar, and the recording will be available on NOCO's website after this webinar, a few days after. All the attendees are encouraged to stay engaged by using the Q&A feature for questions and the chat feature for comments. So if you look, those are both at the bottom of your screen. We have a Q&A answer at the end of all presentations. So if you have any questions, we encourage you to enter them in the Q&A area as they come to your mind at any time. Now, this is very important. In the end, the participants will have the opportunity to participate in an open forum during this audience listening session, which will happen right after the Q&A. So we have all presentations, Q&A session, and then in the end, we'll have this audience listening session. You'll be able to unmute yourself during that audience listening session, and this is how it's going to work. You use the raise hand feature. So also, if you look in the bottom of your screen, you see this raise hand feature, and then you receive a message from Zoom saying that you're allowed to unmute yourself. When it's your turn, then I will say your name and ask you to unmute yourself. So when you hear your name, please feel free to unmute yourself. And then after you're done, just use the lower hand feature. And then we'll know that you don't have any questions or comments anymore. Also, please feel free to enter your name and agency in the chat to say hello to your peers. And now I'll just cover the standard US DOT FHWA disclaimer that reinforces that product names may be used during the webinar, but the US government does not endorse any product. Additionally, views and opinions expressed in this presentation are the presenters only and do not necessarily reflect those of FHWA. Now I'll turn it over to Jim Ostrich, our Crash Responders Safety Week All States Planning webinar host. Jim?
Thank you, Luana, and many thanks to the National Operations Center of Excellence for hosting this webinar series. You guys do a great job, and we sincerely appreciate your support. So as Luana said, Jim Ostrich here on behalf of the US DOT Federal Highway Administration, Paul Joden and Joe Tebow in the Traffic Incident Management Program office here in Washington, D.C. We're delighted to have you here. I see the number is at 90 now. And I can't stress enough how important it is that you be a part of this initiative. We're only 5 months out. It's hard to believe. Here we go again. And CRSW Crash Responder Week is fast approaching, and we have a lot of work to do. But I wanted you to key in on today's mission. Really, primarily is seeking more states to develop proclamations, governor's proclamations. And you'll see here in a few minutes the numbers so far over the past 2 years. This is our third official year of CRSW. It existed under another name prior to that, but we're really excited and proud of this initiative and all of the work that you do to educate the public and your constituents and responder community and everyone about the importance of protecting our responders out in the field, and the motoring public being aware of what traffic incident management is all about, and how we make sure we all get home safely. Next slide. So here's today's agenda. I hope everyone can see this clearly. We just did the welcome in a minute or so. We're going to have two presentations, one from Montana, Joanne Blyton from the Towing Recovery Association of America. She's the president, and Michael Youngbluth from the state of Wisconsin, who's a TIM program manager in the state. We'll also have Q&As, and we're going to talk about very important subject, which is this year's themes, and get your inputs on what we've developed so far, as well as any of your report outs from the different states that are here with us today. Next slide. So this is a series, as you heard Luana mention, a series of 5 all states planning calls for CRSW. And our objective is really to have you communicate in collaboration with Federal Highway and the other stakeholders in your state through your public affairs office and communications officers, etc. As I mentioned, CRSW's goal is to raise awareness and to have all of us push the information, that super and vital information that keeps responders and other vulnerable road users hopefully safe, and again, that we can all get home safely. To encourage, the third bullet is an important one as well. And as we, 5 months out, whatever plans that you are already engaged in, or if you need to collaborate with your local stakeholders, as I said, or regional stakeholders, please do so. And very important, feel free to reach out to Paul, Joe, or myself. We have great contract support here with Vishali Shah and Kelly Pasha and others that are on our team. So rest assured, we're here to help and on a mission, so to speak. Next slide. So CRSW at an entry level, as far as poll questions, you can see one just popped up there. Please take a minute here and check the one that applies to you. It's a single choice that you get here. How and who are you targeting as far as CRSW, not just regional, local, but in general? Who are you collaborating with and how are you collaborating with? And Luana will show the results here in another second. Okay. Okay, very good. I see obviously state level, almost 50%, followed by regional at 38 and national 13 and other 3. Okay, we can close that poll. Thank you, Luana. So next slide. Thank you. Here's another one. The disciplines, who you engage with. Your primary, I guess, that you represent. Actually, I said engage, obviously. What discipline do you represent? Gives us an idea. I'm sure we have all the disciplines represented here, plus some. Okay. Interesting. 2/3 DOT. Okay. Well, at least, there's representation from all. 9% for other, that's interesting. I'm sure that's consulting and other communities that are involved with traffic incident management, responder safety. Okay, Luana, thank you. And thank you all for participating. You see Jack Sullivan there, he voted other is all the above. That's right, Jack, thank you. Okay, moving on, here we have the different activities, okay, and these are not all inclusive, but as I said, number one on this list is Governor's Proclamation, and we're going to share some information on how you can achieve a proclamation if you're not aware of how it's done. But over the years, we've been informed by states, people like you, on how you do it, and I think you're going to enjoy the two presentations in particular that I mentioned. But you can see here, there's a lot of ways that you can contribute during that week to spread the word. I don't need to read this entire list. But I can tell you that as part of, for example, the number 8 public or mass media events, there are states that do events at the DOT for the general public, for example, to come in, even young children with parents to see and get into, public safety vehicles. And do a variety of different, touch, if you will, and see all the different resources that public safety, DOT, Public Works brings to the table. And there's a variety of others that I'm sure you probably heard of for like under number 12. I know Florida for a while there did public education messaging at their gas station pumps, those monitors that I'm sure most are familiar with, that run while we're filling our vehicles up, and things like that. Ride-alongs for with like the safety service patrols is something that's common, as well as testimonials from responders that have been struck and lived to tell the story of being struck while in the course of their activities out on our nation's roadways. So there's a lot here, a lot of potential, and the more you do, the better. And again, if we can be of any support, let us know. So here again, as I mentioned, most collaborate on a many different levels, but these three are the ones that are popular as well. Mass training events that happen during that week, they're a little bit tougher to coordinate, but most states have committees that can pull together mass training events, 4-hour responder trainings, or push their responder community to web-based trainings, either at the National Highway Institute or Responder Safety Learning Network over at respondersafety.com. So I'll pause here a minute, and can I go back there a minute there, Luana? Vishali, did I miss anything here?
Hi, Jim. Thank you so much. No, I think you covered it. I think the key message also is that these that are highlighted in orange, the proclamation, mass training events, public and mass media events, and rest area messaging are really most successful and best pursued as a collaborative effort. And so those are the ones that you want to start earlier on. All of the other things are incredibly impactful as well, but some of those, can be done on an individual organization basis. So a social media campaign as a law enforcement agency, as a safety service patrol, as a transportation group, you can do that on your own using the tools that the Federal Highway Administration offers. But these four are really ones you want to start early and you want to do the planning for in a collaborative way. So thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Vishali. And again, only 5 months out, ladies and gentlemen, and you know how time just flies. It's unbelievable. So just to reiterate Vishali, it's comments, it's important that you get started now, and we're here to help. Next slide. So with that, there are our two presenters today. Joanne Blyton, who's the president of Tow and Recovery Association of America, and as I mentioned earlier, Michael Youngbluth, who's program manager for Wisconsin's Traffic Incident Management Enhancement Program. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Joanne Blyton. Don't forget your video.
I have my audio and video on. And I just want to say thank you to the wonderful group that worked so hard and diligently to try to create Vision Zero and stop the carnage on our highways. You people do an amazing job in keeping us motivated. And I'm going to just visit briefly today about governor's proclamations and why they're important. The governor's proclamation carries power and unity and strength. First responders will know that. They can be president signing and things like that. But first, all of us need to say, I can, not can I, and make the first move, because you have to decide that you want to push an agenda. And I guess that's up to each individual. If it's important to you to save a life on the highway, could be your own, then you need to make that first giant leap with Crash Responder Safety Week. And I would just like to bring up my next slide, if I could, Luana. And as I said earlier, you have to make the first move. You just need to do something. There's a saying out there that says, just imagine how much we can accomplish if we don't care who gets credit. Well, we can all take this opportunity to promote awareness of Crash Responder Safety Week and help save lives. If you have good intentions, but you don't do follow through, that just doesn't cut it. With Montana's proclamation, the first year we did this, I started, I think it was like 90 to 120 days out to make the request of our governor's office to find time to work this in his busy schedule. I got through to a scheduler and then transferred to someone and someone else and someone else. And the staffers there do most of the work. So once we were able to get on the same page, understand the purpose and cause for what the request was, it was easy for them to get on board with it. And we shared sample proclamations that had been done in other states, explaining the purpose and the whereas, and making suggestions about how they might enhance the Montana proclamation. Montana then went to work on this, and I asked for a signing at the Capitol with our governor, which they honored. The problem there was it's very difficult to get them to pin down a date this far out. And in order to have first responders and those in positions of authority, Department of Transportation, MacLong, and some of those fine people, they need to be putting dates on their calendars to accomplish things months ahead. And it was difficult, but we had a great turnout with State Fire Training Director, EMS folks, the motor carrier folks from Montana, our tow association for the state was represented there, our highway patrol, and just massive numbers of people showed up. And our DOT director, MacLong, actually took the picture that was taken there and put it in his transportation newsletter that goes out all across the state, sharing the fact that they did this to honor and respect first responders. And it goes just a step further than that, because we're also helping protect the motoring public to save lives. And moving on with that, then the governor's office, like I said, it's difficult to get them to get you a date this far out. I do have communication already that the proclamation's on the agenda, we just don't have a date set, and we'll get to work on that. Then you can ask the governor's office to share that information with their public information officer and newsletters. You can ask local radio stations. I was visiting with our local radio station here, and the owner actually offered to come out and do a live remote during that week, which I'm going to work on because I won't be at home base. I'll be in DC. So it complicates things just a little bit for us here, but we'll get through that. And I think it will be something worth working on. And then you have to be mindful of the governor's scheduling. And I am asking them to sign the proclamation the week ahead of Crash Responder Safety Week, because I like to be there and see who shows up, and then remind them that it's time now to start on next year again. So, and then it's always great to say thank you to the folks that work so hard to be able to promote Crash Responder Safety Week for us to work on saving lives out there. And then on the screen, you can see our sample proclamation. I believe that one's from 2022. And we have been doing this. I believe this year will be the 4th year for our proclamations. And our governor likes to make a marriage with crash responder safety and slow down and move over. This year during legislative session, our legislators added electric linemen to our slow down and move over law, which is a great thing. And I'm hoping to engage our Montana Electric Cooperative Association in the proclamation signing this year. So if we could go to the next slide, Lavana, please. There's the picture of the fine folks that showed up, and you could walk through there. And I bet Michael probably even knows some of those people from DOT here and things, but it was a great turnout. We've had folks, different folks turn out each year for it. And the key there is they carry the message back to their home base. And that's so important to excite others to want to help with the project. And then if we could move on to the next slide. And this year, something I'm going to do that's a little different is I'm going to work with our local mayor here in Billings and see if he will do a proclamation at one of their council meetings, or maybe county commissioners. And I feel like what we do is educate, 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 and think about what can happen with the message being shared if all the states work together, not just during Crash Responder Safety Week, but all year. We can request positive PR, media coverage, and make a statement out there to save lives. And talking webinars such as this enable a group to do things together that no one of us might think of to do on our own. And again, I just ask that we do something, take the first step, be a champion for change. And it's about raising public awareness and educating. The power and strength is amongst us, and we just need to push forward in getting the process completed. And I guess it's our opportunity to help move this program this year. And I just want to share a little story with you. I have a great friend who recently said to me, Joanne, in all these years you've been talking about this, I've never asked our governor to do that. I'm going to do that this year. I said, and engage your state tow association in that request to help promote save lives, secondary crashes being avoided. And so I know of one other state that I'm counting on to have a proclamation this year. And there are sample proclamations available for anybody who wants to ask. Our good folks there in DC have them. Our executive director with TRAA has them available. You just need to reach out. I'm about never reinventing the wheel. If it's there, use it and tweak it to suit your needs. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and know that I hopefully didn't take too much time. But again, I'm proud to be here amongst this group to work so hard to stop carnage on the highways. Thank you, Jim.
Bravo, bravo, Joanne. Thank you. Oh my gosh, you hit it out of the park, Joanne.
Well,
Seriously, all the things that you said there, the resources are there. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. We can help. And I have to say, I was perusing real quick today's attendee list of over 100, and I see a lot of names I'm not familiar with, which is great. But if you haven't signed into the chat pod, tell us, who you're with and so on. We'd really appreciate that. We have your registration information, but I think it would be great to see you actually type it in, and we have that for the record in the chat pod as well. Questions I failed to mention earlier before Joanne started speaking, for her and or Mike, who's coming up here in a second. But I want to underscore the saving lives piece again. It sounds cliche-ish, ladies and gentlemen, but this program is saving lives as we speak across this nation. You can believe it is, and it may be, that it saves your life or someone in your family, in your inner circle, that the responder community and others save. It's just a fact. Our nation's roadways are extremely dangerous places, and we should never lose sight of that. Even if you're just, you're changing a tire or, out of gas or anything like that, when you pull over, you are at very high risk of being struck by some errant motorist who's either drugged, drowsy, drunk, distracted, in some way impaired. So thank you again, Joanne, and all the great work you and the Towing Recovery Association of America do. So next up, Mike Youngbluth with the state of Wisconsin. And without further delay, Mike.
Mike, please unmute. You're still muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Thought I clicked on it. Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Joanne. There may be a slight bit of repetition here, but I think some of our experiences in Wisconsin, especially for those that are new to Crash Responder Safety Week, will help you a little bit. What you see on the first slide here is something we started last year. And if you've ever visited Milwaukee, we have the Hone Bridge that goes over the Kinnickinnick River that drains into Lake Michigan. and it's a harbor where freighters and everything pass under, but the bridge is actually lit. And so last year we got the idea of, that's a DOT bridge. So I wonder how difficult will it be for them to light the bridge for us? And that organization that manages that did an exceptional job in working with our Crash Responder Safety Week team. Because it's not just myself and Nadine Olson and Marquise Young that do this. It's a group of 10 individuals that put our program together each year. So for each night, Monday through Friday, we lit the bridge in honor of our first responders. And it was a great opportunity. They had the opportunity to drive down there with their vehicles and get photos taken of it, and it was lit from dusk all the way till like 3 a.m. So we're very proud of that, and it's something that we're going to continue to do again this year. Next slide, Luann. So although I got proclamations listed all the way at the last thing, in essence, it's one of the first things that we get going in Wisconsin. So if you take a look at, our outreach is huge. We have a list of well over 8,000 first responders. Looks like we lost our, there we go. We have over 8,000 first responders that have taken TIM classes that we send information out regarding, all the different events like Move Over, Slow Down, or Crash Responder Safety Week. So we use our newsletters to promote it, our first responder conferences. We attend about 12 or 13 of those a year. And we are very fortunate in Wisconsin to have a time coalition. And what that is that's 19 organizations that support the TIM program in Wisconsin. And we utilize them to promote, for example, Crash Responder Safety Week. So some of the other things that we do, Jim talked a little bit about it, the first responder experiences. We annually do that, and that takes a little bit of work. And then obviously light the hone. There we go. And then freeway service team ride-alongs, message boards, and I believe in an upcoming CRSW webinar, a member of our communications team is going to talk about dynamic message boards and the messaging during that week. This time new for this year is in DOT in Wisconsin, we have regional time meetings. And so 3 of our 5 regions have chosen to conduct those meetings during Crash Responder Safety Week. They are hybrid type meetings, and we normally get between 60 and 70 participants at those meetings. So they're all first responders. And then this year we've chosen to do our FHWA TIM self-assessment during that time frame. So in addition to that, our state patrol they have their November law of the month, which is emergency responder safety. And then last but not least, although we work on it first, proclamations. Next slide. So the process in Wisconsin, just to give you an idea, this is not all me, and I mentioned it before, there are 10 very hardworking individuals that work on putting together materials for Crash Responder Safety Week. So we are very fortunate in Wisconsin to have that group that's been committed for many years for Crash Responder Safety Week. Next slide. So our approach is pretty broad-based, although it's a proclamation that we do with the governor of the state of Wisconsin. We've been very fortunate over the years for all our governors to be very supportive of proclamation opportunities. So we work on a state level, and then it's sort of a trickle-down effect. Through all our different outreach, we encourage our county executives, 72 counties in Wisconsin. and also our municipal and local officials. So the document that you see up there on the right is from my hometown in West Dallas, Mayor Dan Devine, and just a sample of something that was recent from this year, National Police Week. So again, it doesn't necessarily just have to be from the governor. It can come from other organizations, including first responder organizations. And there are some of our Time Coalition members that will promote their version of a proclamation for that week also. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of a sample of the volume of proclamations, so far to date, Wisconsin has just shy of 260 that they've done. And they get a lot of media coverage when these come out. So there was a total of 476 proclamations in 2022. So our social media and local media does a great job in recognizing that, hey, there's a proclamation that came out, whether it's for a month, a week, or a day. And that's just a sort of a sample of what we've done in the state of Wisconsin. The one that's on the top, Rural Road Safety Awareness Week, is something very new to us. And that's coming up in the middle of July. And this is our first year in participating with that. And we're just going to get our feet a little bit wet with Rural Road Safety Awareness Week by just doing a proclamation this year. But like we did with Crash Responder Safety Week, our approaches to a lot of these have grown and will continue to grow. So that's our expectation. So next slide, please. So in Wisconsin, it's, and Joanne talked about a little bit of the process that she has to go through. In our process, if I was an outside agency or an outside entity and I wanted the governor to do a proclamation, I just have to go to the state's website and fill in the request a proclamation form. And so it's as simple as that. Because we have a Crash Responder Safety Week team that does this, our communications group for DOT works specifically behind the scenes to get all the verbiage and everything, and they do that for us and submit it. And once we are done with this meeting, we have our first meeting for our team, and they will begin drafting their proclamation for 2023. Next slide, please. So here's just some things to think about in advance. Joanne gave you some time. You need to know what your state requires. In us, it's 45 to 100 days in advance. They want a summary or a background of the group that's making the request, a start date, end date, the significance of the chosen date range, and the title of the proclamation. Those are all very, very important. Next slide. So in the space, they ask for proposed verbiage for whereas clauses. So, you know, a lot of times we'll put some data in there that needs to be updated. And those are things that will, you know, want to draw the people's attention to it. It's usually the first whereas statement, but Wisconsin historically has added information in there about move over, slow down, Crash Responder Safety Week, a work zone types of safety, and then a general statement about the safety of our first responders that are on our roadways. So obviously the date you need this proclamation, and will this document be presented in an event or ceremony. So they do ask the governor at times that, you know, can you present this? There are times where he will be able to do it or do a signing, but that hasn't happened for Crash Responder Safety Week for us. Next slide. So what do we do with our proclamations? We just saturate through all our outreach opportunities to get that message out there. And again, the earliest, the better. So I start conferences for the calendar year in late January, early February. I have like 4 or 5 first responder conferences. I love to have at least the date and start promoting that. And so we do all kinds of different things that parallel focus with the counties and municipal and local efforts. Our state patrol is a great partner with us as far as getting the message out, and they do a great job on social media through Facebook and getting information out. So every time we do a TIM training or a TIM train the trainer, we invest time in there and let those students know that there are specific dates each and every year, which include Crash Responder Safety Week and Move Over Slow Down Day, to make them just aware of that. So, and again, all the things that we do, this whole process of going through and getting our proclamation, it helps promoting TIM across the state of Wisconsin, all the way through our counties down to the feet on the street. Next slide, please. So what's the next step for, especially the first timers out there? Identify your state's process and do it as early as you can. We've heard it say before, Jim and Joanna says, do not reinvent the wheel. FHWA and NOCO have resources and samples for you. I have the links there, and I know Jim will provide the links also. If this is the first time, start small. If this is your first year, we've been fortunate for many years to be doing this. So each and every year, we try and add on something or do something new to our Crash Responder Safety Week to keep the interest going. And again, can't say it enough. Start promoting as soon as you can. Next slide. So with that, we have our information up there for you. My boss, Marquise Young, and Nadine Olson, and myself. If anybody needs any assistance at all in help with this, or you want to tap our brains for some things that we do and some of the challenges, just give us a holler. We're always willing to invest time. And that's all I have. Hopefully there's some questions out there. Any questions?
I'm talking to myself, Mike. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Anyway, I'm singing your praises, Mike, for a great presentation, all the incredible work you do. The lighting of the bridge, when you guys first started doing that, we all thought, my goodness, that is such an incredible thing to do. High visibility, and I'm glad you're still doing that, and so many other things, Mike.
Yeah, it was a fun opportunity, and unfortunately, the only first responders that didn't get an opportunity to get photos out there was our highway department and DOT, because the day that their bridge was lit, of course, we live in Wisconsin, they had a snow and ice event, and all their rigs were on the road, so they weren't able to send anybody down to get any photos. So.
Well, still, it's makes a big impact, Mike. Thanks, yep. Thanks again for all you do.
Thank you.
So again, I see there's some questions in the chat pod, I believe. Next up, I think we're going to go to Vishali Shah, who's going to go through a series of slides again regarding proclamations and different metrics that we wanted to share. Correct,
Sure.
Vishali?
I know that we had 1 or 2 questions for Joanne and Michael Young.
Uh-oh, sorry.
So did you want to ask those, or I'm happy to help with that? And I think there was one question regarding a template for the CRSW proclamations that could be used, and wanted to share that there are actually all of the proclamations that were produced in 2020 and 2021 and soon for 2022. They're available on the NOCO site, and I think I put in the link for the 2021 proclamations. So for those that are looking to say, you know, what can I use? What are the whereas statements? What are other states doing? That's on the chat pod. I don't know if you wanted to ask one or two questions that we had for Joanne and Mike. If not, I'm happy to move forward.
The Shally,
Yes.
I'm drawing a blank on the questions.
No worries. So I think the one question for both of them is, you know, you guys have both been successful in securing proclamations for the last year to 3 years. What do you see yourself doing differently this year, or is it now kind of ingrained and you just sort of hit repeat year after year? So I don't know, Joanne, if you want to unmute and come on the video, and the same thing with Mike.
All right, so Shally, I'll jump in on that, because what I'm going to do different this year is try to enlarge our group that shows up at the Capitol, which is a challenge sometimes when you're located 4 hours away. But I want to enlarge that group and include our electric co-op folks with that. And in addition to that, I'm going to hone it down to a more local level with county commissioners and mayor, things like that, because again, that's a different saturation point of educate, educate, educate.
Thank you, Joanne. Mike?
Yeah, Vishali, as far as the proclamation is concerned, we update each and every year to highlight crashes. But what I think is important, and I know you'll be talking about it later on, is the theme. That's something that has been lacking in our last couple of years, because it takes a while for that theme to get developed and approved. So within our timeline, because the proclamation is usually the first thing that we start working on, you know, the theme's not in there. So it doesn't allow our communication people the opportunity to tweak some whereases and support the theme. So our hope is that the theme is something that gets resolved quickly, so it can be part of our proclamations. As far as the governor and doing signings and that kind of stuff, we have a great Secretary of Transportation, and there are times that our communication part of our CRSW team will work with him, and he'll pre-tape something for social media or for our media outlets. But there have been times that he has visited different regions to help promote Crash Responder Safety Week. So, and those occurred pre-COVID. So it'd be nice to get back into doing some in-person events.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions from the audience? I don't see that. Okay, so let's go ahead. Luana, can you come back to the slide deck? And I think I have the next little segment where we want to come back to the theme of all of the different sort of progress for proclamations, as well as the other approaches. So next slide, there we go. So wanted to point out that, you know, the concept of doing the governor's proclamation came about probably in 2019, with 2020 being the first year where Crash Responder Safety Week proclamations were issued by 5 state departments of transportation. Those included Washington, Colorado, Wisconsin, Maryland, Connecticut, and Puerto Rico. Next slide. And then by 2021, we were able to see far greater number of proclamations, from 5 to 14. A number of new states came on, for example, Michigan and Nevada, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Massachusetts. And if you recall, this is when sort of the COVID toll started taking place, and we were just starting to become sort of out of that and recovering in 2022. And we saw a significant shift. There was, next slide, actually only 13 states that were successful in issuing governor's proclamations for Crash Responder Safety Week last year. And that's not because there were only 13 states that pursued it, but there were only 13 that were successful. There were many that just didn't quite get the proclamation in time for Crash Responder Safety Week. And if you saw the previous slide in this one, the blue states, the ones that secured proclamations, actually changed. So there were a number of new entrants in 2022, for example, Arizona and Florida. And then some of the traditional ones like Washington and Colorado that were there the first 2 years didn't quite get it all together. So this year, next slide, please. We're hoping, our goal is to have at least as many states that have previously issued a proclamation to do so again. So over the last 3 years, we've had 19 states that were successful in securing a Crash Responder Safety Week proclamation. So we want to make sure that every one of these 19 states is also successful this year in 2023. And we're here through the Federal Highway Administration, NOCO, and all of the national committee members by response discipline to help make it happen. And our goal, next slide, for 2023 is to have not only 19, but we're going to try to get 25 states to work together within their state to issue a governor's proclamation. And there are resources that are easily available. Nearly every state has a website and a link that you click on and a form you complete to request that proclamation. But that form is far more effective, as both of our wonderful presenters said, when you have a multidisciplinary team that proposes and requests that proclamation. So we'll put those two links also in the chat pod. And then the second one is on the proclamation language. What are the whereas statements? And we're hoping that within the next month or two that the theme is ironed out, and we'll get to that momentarily. But we'd love to see, it's incredible if we could get every state, Puerto Rico and DC, to be successful in issuing a proclamation this year. That would be just amazing. So next slide, Luana. So who are the organizations within your state that you should be collaborating with to make that request for the proclamation? I mean, this is the strength that we bring as a TIM committee and TIM community. You know, you can have EMS office representative, EMS association in your state firefighters association, or the fire marshal office in certain states. The state highway patrol, the sheriff's association at the state level. You could have an American Public Works Association state chapter, the State Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office, the TMC, maybe even the state chapters of the ITE, Institute for Transportation Engineers, or Intelligent Transportation Society of America. There's a lot of stakeholders that could help increase the impact and the importance and get the message across for Crash Responder Safety Week. And of course, the State Towing Association, as Joanne pointed out. So a great starting point is if your state has a statewide TIM committee, that's a great collaboration hub for Crash Responder Safety Week. Next slide. And so we have one question for you, and this is the question that we want to ask you to allow the Federal Highway Administration and NOCO to help foster this collaboration. Do you think that you're the right point person for your state level organization? So if you are, for example, you know, the public outreach manager for your state office of safety, or if you are the towing association representative in your state, please give us your name, your email, and what organization you represent. So what we hope to do is take this information and put it together, and during the next webinar, and perhaps before that, put forth a document that says, hey, state of Montana, here are all of the key staff that could help in promoting the proclamation, as well as all of the other activities that we want to collaboratively promote for Crash Responder Safety Week. So we're going to leave that poll question up and allow you to continue to provide inputs. And I'm going to pause for a minute for you to do that. And Luana, if you don't mind keeping the poll question up, I'm going to go to the next slide if that's possible. So I'll still give everyone, I mean, we have about 100 participants. And, you know, if you feel like you're not the point person, but you know of who the point person is, if you feel comfortable putting their name in now, great. If not, please reach out to them and then have them reach out to Jim Ostrich, Paul Joden, or Joe Tebow and say, hey, I'm the point person. I'm the, you know, law enforcement point person with the State Sheriff's Association or with the Towing Association or any of the other response disciplines. I wanted to bring up an activity that a few organizations have been doing, but something we want to call out, which is the second in that list of 12, which is the executive video messaging. We would love to get every organization leader at the state level, each of the response disciplines, to create a very brief video message, a video message that commemorates CRSW, focusing on the important information to share with the traveling public and to the response community that they represent. So a message such as, you know, for all traveling public, not only is it slow down, move over, but if you're in a small fender bender, you know, get off the road, things of that sort. All of the different messaging, you know, pay attention for travelers, and then for the response community to be aware that there is a national TIM responder training course. It is available for free in person or online through the National Highway Institute. So, and then once that message is recorded by your executive, share it as a part of your social media campaign, display it on your website, incorporate it with all of your other CRSW outreach activities. And so with that, Luana, let's go ahead and close the poll question. I think we've got a good number of responses. And I'm going to turn it over to Luana to share an example of one or two of these messages. So let's just go ahead and do the one with the APWA president that was recorded last year as an example.
Can you hear it, Michelle?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Stan Brown, and I'm president of the American Public Works Association. APWA is a member of the Crash Responder Safety Week Planning Committee, guiding this year's national outreach. We are proud to once again be a part of this year's observation. Nearly every week, a first responder is killed while helping clear a roadway crash, a stalled vehicle, or other incident. Many more first responders suffer life-altering injuries. I want to encourage each member of APWA to complete the free traffic and incident management training from the Federal Highway Administration. Honestly, it may save your life and the lives of friends and people you love. And for all road users, please remember to slow down and move over when you see us at work on roads and highways. Let's use this Crash Responder Safety Week to commit to a safer work environment for traffic incident responders and safer travel for all road users.
Thank you, Luana. And with that, I will turn it back over to Jim Ostrich to talk about the theme for 2023. Over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Vishali and Luana. So, the important part of this effort, Vishali's touched on it, and you're interested, I'm sure, but what you see here before you and now in poll question number 4 would greatly help us in this endeavor. So take a few seconds here and look it over. Just to give you some background, there is a national committee, CRSW national committee, comprised of executive level folks from all the major response, DOT, Public Works, Towing Recovery Association organizations. And we have had a discussion about the themes. But here today, your engagement, your thoughts, ideas on these and any others, as it says in number 2, if that's the case, if you have any other suggestions, please type it in.
And it looks like we have about 33 of the 80 responses so far. So we'd love to get at least 50 before we move forward. And thanks for anyone who has ideas that, aren't of the 3 that are shared. Protect those who protect you, move over for me, and respect our roadside heroes.
Come on, we can get at least 50. If not more.
We are 2 away from 50. So let's see.
Okay.
Who's going to help us? Come on, one more person who has not done their poll yet. All right, we are at 60%, which is 50 people. Luana, do you want to share the poll results?
Okay.
Looks like more than half like protect those who protect you. We've got a quarter that like move over for me, and we have, I think, 7 responses for other ideas. So we'll go ahead and look through those in the weeks to come. So,
But I think we can share that protect those who protect you is a favorite this time around, Vishali.
yes, sir, it is. The majority of the responses will preferred protect those who protect you. 6% had no preferences, 10% wanted to carry over respect our roadside heroes, and 27% preferred move over for me. So definitely a clear winner, as you might have it, for protect those who protect you. All right, next slide. And so I think if you recall back from 2017, 2016 onward, we used to have roll calls, right, Jim? And we would ask each person to say what they're doing. And we know that it's only 5 months away, but this is a great time to think about for your organization, whoever you're here representing. What are the things that you think you're going to try to pursue? Like, we know, for example, that if you are a member of a fire association, you're not really going to have a lot of sway as far as changeable message signs. Those are mainly in the purview of the transportation agency. But I think everyone can do a social media campaign. Everyone can take part in mass training or help coordinate a mass training event. Every organization can independently promote CRSW on their website during that week. So we'd love to see what you think you can do. We're not going to hold you accountable to this, but this is something that hopefully as we go to the subsequent planning calls, we'll come back to. And so, we broke this down into 2 parts just because Zoom does not allow for 12 options. So pick all of the things that apply. And if you clicked on other, feel free to put in the chat pod what other creative or different things that you might pursue doing, whether it's a podcast, a news segment, a law enforcement campaign for slow down, move over laws during that week, or, the gas station messaging that Jim shared. So I think we've got about 37 out of the 80 responses. So again, if we can get to half, which would be 40, that would be great. And we're almost there. Okay, we are at 50%. So Jim, back to you for the next slide.
Okay, thank you, Vishali. And so here we are, the sharing resources with you. These URLs to the Federal Highway Administration's CRSW site. Our sponsor today, the National Operations Center of Excellence. Tremendous resources there as well. And a responder-specific site with the International Association of Firefighters, IAFF, who's a great partner of the National TIM program. So as the last bullet says, or note at the highlighted at the bottom, that working through all of these ask of you, this information, the themes, etc., we expect the sites, everything to be updated in the August timeframe. Trust me, we're as anxious as you are to get all this information out. The sooner the better. Unfortunately, we have to follow a process, all of us, for public affairs clearance and so on. So Vishali and Kelly and Paul, Joe, and I and others were all working hard to get this accomplished.
So, Jim, this is the time if you want to do a open mic to have people ask questions or share comments. You can raise your hand in that bottom second to rightmost section, and Luana will unmute you, and it allows you to sort of share your thoughts, ask questions. Is there something that the FHWA could be doing that would help you?
All right, David, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Dr. Harden, unmute yourself.
Got it. Sorry.
It's all right.
I hope you're all doing well. I'm wondering if it would be helpful if you want to increase the number of states that actually submit proclamation requests and get them from their governors, that through this work group, we draft a template language as a starting point. So anyone may not have time to draft their own proclamation language, but there's a sample that's out there that everyone's kind of agreeing with. Let them take and run with it and make some modifications or use it as it is. That might help increase our chances of getting more states to get proclamation completed. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, and thank you for the question, Dr. Harden. I saw that you had put it in the chat pod early on, and I think it's a good suggestion. We'll definitely take it, consider that, and as you say, it might help states get it done. So I also want to repeat too that we're happy to share any of and all of the other proclamations as well. As Mike said, and even Joanne, no need to reinvent the wheel. You can see it right there in front of you and use it to your advantage. So thank you for the question. Anybody else? I know we're over time, correct, Vishali?
No, we are not. We actually target a 1 hour delivery, but budget for an hour and a half. So we'll hopefully be able to give 20 minutes back to everyone. There's just one final slide, and I think we'll be done if there are no other questions. And there we go. Thank you, Luana.
Okay, and you see Adam Hops is posting proclamations, previous ones on the NOCO website.
Yeah, I put that link in earlier, and thank you so much, Adam, for putting it again so people don't have to scroll down up through 100 messages. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. So our next all-state planning call will be on July 12th, which is the second Wednesday of the month. And from July through October, all of the all-state planning webinars will be the second Wednesday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so one of the things we'd like to try to do this year is go back a little bit to the roll call, but rather than doing a roll call of all 50 states, we're going to try to tag you in advance and say, hey, we'd love to have you come up and tell us what you're doing. And so I think you're going to get emails from Mr. Ostrich in the next week or so to say, hey, we'd love to have you be one of the states to share, what you're going to be doing during the next webinar, which is on July 12th. So just a heads up of something new we're trying, hopefully something that will be more useful. And if you guys have ideas on how to make these all-state planning webinars more useful for you, please do reach out to Jim, Paul, Joe. We're going to try to target these to be finished within an hour, but we're leaving in a 1.5 hour buffer just in case there's some issues or questions or ideas or something different that is needed. So just to be aware of that. So I think that's it. And Luana, you can run that last slide and back to you, Jim.
Okay, thank you, Vishali, and a lot of great information here today. Please feel free. We encourage you to share this information now. Start talking with your stakeholders in your state, your organizations now. And we really are looking forward to, as Vishali said, getting 25 plus proclamations this year. It would be awesome if we could achieve that goal, and with all your help. So I want to thank our presenters, Joanne Blyton, President TRAA, and Mike Youngbluth with Wisconsin Time Program. And